Welcome to another segment of the MCR. My name is TJ. Please like, share, and subscribe. We're on multiple platforms. We're on multiple social media sites to include Truth Social. So whatever platform or wherever you're watching this, thanks everyone for your support. I've mentioned in the past, I'll say again, one of my favorite radio talk show hosts is Dan Bongino. But he also has a podcast, and normally he has these podcasts on Rumble that last between 45-50 minutes. He records them in the morning, and then after 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, you can watch them. Most often it's kind of a version of whatever it is he shares on his 3-hour talk show, which is Monday through Friday, 12p to 3p. But he's one of my favorites. I enjoy listening to him on the radio, and I enjoy listening to his podcast during my lengthy drive home from work. Last week, on Thursday and Friday, he interviewed an FBI agent. I'm going to try and I believe I understand what his current situation is. I hope I get this correct and accurate. But the FBI agent basically told Dan Bongino that he was on an unpaid suspension for reasons he thought were for two reasons. One, he refused to get the COVID vaccine. And then later, toward the end of, I think he said last year, it became known, he's not sure how, but it became known that he had passed on information to his state representative in D.C. When confronted, he confessed, because, as he said, you don't dare lie in the FBI, and we'll touch on that topic here in a bit. But when he was confronted by his superiors, he was truthful. Thus, he was deemed a miscreant, a problem child, and was put on unpaid suspension. He said really, and to use his words, the way he defined it, he cannot act or conduct himself, portray himself as an FBI agent, but he's still with the FBI, though he's on unpaid suspension, and they haven't fired him. So and he can't get another job without their permission or unless he officially resigns from the FBI. You know what? As I heard him explaining all that, I thought, gee, they're jerking this guy around. I would really encourage everyone. I don't know how many people go to Rumble to watch this or that, or how many people are interested in even Dan Bongino, but I would really encourage everyone to go back. Just search the Dan Bongino show on Rumble and Thursday and Friday's show of last week. Watch them both. There was so much information being discussed. Dan Bongino decided to do it a part 1 Thursday and a part 2 Friday. So if you get a chance, watch it. This agent would make the point that it was his opinion. And you know what? Here's the disclaimer. We're talking about, we're talking about an FBI agent who could be disgruntled right now, but you know what? I don't look at him that way. But I'm just throwing that out there as in the effort of fairness. Some might view him this source as such, but in any event, I digress. In any event, it was his belief that the FBI had turned more into an intelligence gathering organization than an organization to investigate criminal activity. And the reason why he felt this was such a big deal and a bad idea he goes, when you're talking about an intelligence gathering operation, he goes, this can go on for years, and because they're not necessarily looking to uh, press pass on information that would bring on criminal charges. He goes, they could do all sorts of stuff. He goes, there are many people out there completely unaware that there is an active intelligence gathering operation on them as of this day. He didn't say who. He couldn't say who. He'd probably get in trouble. But he goes because it's an intelligence gathering operation, they just keep gathering information and as he said, papering the file, which was, as long as you papered the file, you could continue the intelligence gathering, I guess. As I was listening to what he was saying, the word hypocrisy came to mind. Because he said, you know, an FBI agent, once he's caught in a lie, he's basically unemployable. But check this out. We know the FBI lied to get their FISA warrants. We know the FBI lied in this whole Russian hoax. And you know what? Now we're questioning whether or not they told the truth in the affidavit used to get the warrant to raid Mar-a-Lago. So I guess my point being, we've talked about a two-tier justice system. Heck, there's a two-tier justice system within the FBI itself. The lower echelon, well, you better toe the line. You better tell the truth. But and he made reference to, I guess, GS 14 or 15 and above. Willy-nilly play with the truth or falsehoods or however you want to phrase it, and nothing happens to him. He made reference to something, and this is when the whole issue of hypocrisy struck me. He said when recruits are going through the I'll call it the FBI Academy, because I don't know if he said or what's the actual name for recruits training up to be an FBI agent, okay? And I guess there's a 2-year probationary period where you've got to get past the first 2 years before, up until your 2-year probationary period ends. For no reason at all, you can be fired. And he mentioned a few examples of some unfortunate people on the flimsiest of reasons were fired at that time, to include the very last day of a 2-year probationary period. But these recruits were made to go to the Holocaust Museum and walk through. And he goes, the intent of them going to the Holocaust Museum was to hit home the idea of what can happen when there is complete compliance. Meaning, and again, this FBI agent basically was saying that in order for, and we're going to go back to World War II, the Holocaust, in order for that to happen, there was compliance at every level of law enforcement. And the FBI was trying to make the case that I was just following orders is no excuse to comply with illegal orders or conduct illegal activity. But then here, hypocrisy. When you see the way they're going after Trump and the stuff they're making up there, and the whole Russian collusion hoax, and the way they're going after January 6th with a penchant, and I'm going to try and wrap this up here now, because this is becoming a much longer video than I expected it to be. But he was saying that it was his opinion January 6th broke a lot of people, and basically broke a lot of people in the FBI. He says, the DOJ, through the FBI, was so hell-bent on getting all these evil and wicked J6 protesters that they pulled agents off of cases across the country, brought them to D.C., and on the flimsiest of trespassing charges, began to charge these people with, criminal activity and putting them in what we now know as the D.C. jail. Okay, and it was just it was after listening to this two-part interview. We talk about a two-tier justice system. Well, it exists within the FBI too. He said not every FBI agent is like this. He goes, but the higher up you get, the more you're committed to comply. Dan Bongino referenced the term, what do you say, golden handcuffs. You're on the backside of 20. You don't want to jeopardize your pension. So in an act of selfishness, you're handcuffed with the golden handcuffs, so you comply. And you do your last 2 or 3 years, and then you get the hell out of Dodge or something. Doesn't make it right. Dan Bongino himself said he left the Secret Service after being in it for 12 years because he was not comfortable with the way they were conducting their affairs. And I guess Dan Bongino's been beating the drum that if he can do it, more FBI agents ought to be taking a stand and doing it. This guy that he was interviewing was only in the FBI for about 6 years, and given his stand first against the COVID vaccine, and then because he saw an email that he was not comfortable with the orders and the content of it, passes it on to his state representative. Well, now he's got to be on unpaid suspension. Okay, so I'm just going to wrap up here and say, if you get a chance, you really ought to listen, because there is so much in those two parts. And I can't, a little old me, if you get a chance, listen to it. Hopefully you will find it as interesting as I did, as eye-opening as I did. And, and there's no way I can, in a 10 or even 15-minute video segment, try to convey all the topics and information he touched on in this two-part interview. So, do yourself a favor. Watch this video. I'll cease my rambling. For those who are still watching, thanks, everyone, for your support. And here's a shameless tease. In my next segment, I'm going to talk about someone completely out of control in a total meltdown act of revenge. Okay? So if you want to hear about someone in full-blown revenge mode, come back for my next segment. And with that, I'll end with, as always, be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.